So, as fate would have it, I accidentally hit the off switch and stopped my video. So, I'm going to have to do two. So, this is the first one. Anyway, so I was in my discourse. So, this particular 1977 is not going to get the tone bar clean because that's so time consuming to take every single one of these off and clean them. And I've got the other one to finish. So basically I tuned and voiced this. So I had to lift the harp up and tune with the springs. And then I've spent a lot of time experimenting with the voicing on this, you know. And everybody knows the way you do that is to put the screwdriver in this first screw, and as you turn it one way or the other, it adds upper harmonics or the lower fundamental. So you can have it really thuddy or really pingy and get rid of it all just by turning this front screw. So I did that. This is about voicing number 4. And then I realized after study that the 1977 is the least desirable Rhodes for the simple reason that the hammer key felts are on the hammers. So normally your felts are on the key pedestal, so your key sticks out and on the end of the key is a pedestal. And over the years Rhodes experimented with different shapes of the pedestal. There's a Marcel pedestal. I think this one I haven't even really looked at the 73 to see, but anyway, it plays okay. The action is okay, but on the 77, it's like playing a mattress, and this is what we had on our Rhodes at Terry Sanford. Whenever I went to school there, it was just like playing a bed. The piano was okay, sounded okay, but you just had to play, and there was no resilience, and it was slow. So anyway, whenever I discovered that the 77 was the model, that it just has a wood key and a wooden key pedestal, and the pedestal has no felt on it, and it's absolutely square. There's no curve, no Marcel, just a square, bare pedestal. And if you take the hammer rail off, on the backs of the hammers, the felts are glued on, which is some kind of bogan back way to do the action. So I decided, okay, the solution to that is to put on the bump mod offered by Vintage Vibe and a few other people. So I studied the tutorials. Didn't have to do this on my Mark II 81 and the 54 81 because the action is great. I went up and played it this morning and I was like, oh my God, this keyboard is like heaven. Compared to these, you know, this one, the 73 is pretty good. It's okay, but not as good as the Mark II. But anyway, the 77 was the dog. I got used to it. I got used to just having to play down. But it was slow, and it's also demanding on your muscles. So I put the bump mod on last night. And I already had a roll of Steinway felt that I bought to do the key bushings on the 73. And I haven't gotten around to that, so it turns out that the red Steinway felt is the same stuff. So instead of ordering the kit, I already had super glue, I already had contact cement, I already had the felt. So all I needed was the bumps. So I ordered I got online a couple of Rhodes forums and the guys that don't have lots of money, and they told me here is the product. Plastruct Styron half round 3.2 millimeters. So there is what you make your bump from. And of course, which they don't tell you, is you have to cut these to fit. So a pedestal is about this wide. So I measured the pedestal. I can't remember what the measurement is. And then I put one of these down on the work table with the pencil and I marked where I'm going to cut. And then I put 3 more pieces and I marked them as well. And then I just used a utility knife and went tink, 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 and cut them. I tried cutting them with the Dremel tool and it burned the plastic, so not a good thing. So basically, some guys use toenail clippers. I tried to use wire cutters, wire nips, but it didn't make a perpendicular cut. It put a chisel on the end of the bump, and I figured out that's not good, right? It needs to be as clean as possible. So here is this. So the process last night was, after removing the harp and removing the hammer rail, and I've already taken the felts off of the hammers. That's another episode. You have to saturate them in a type of solution of some kind. They say naphtha or denatured alcohol or acetone. I use mineral spirits, and some of the felts came off pretty easily, but then the goo didn't come off, and I ended up using paint thinner, and it didn't hurt the plastic hammers at all. So paint thinner. I took the felts off of the hammers, so they were ready. You have to take the side panels off. Why did I have to take the side panels off? I don't remember. Harp came off. Oh, to get the side panels wouldn't have to come off to get the hammer rail off. It's only, you have to take the dampers, take the screws out of the dampers, and because the screws to get the hammer rail off are underneath, and they're like 5 of these big honking screws, and the hammer rail will come off. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. So last night, the project was to glue each one of those 73 little styrene pieces onto each pedestal for each key that I marked with a measurement. You have to set how the hammer cam sits on the pedestal, and there's a little tutorial that you got to watch to do that, right? So that when it's up, it locks the hammer in place, this little bump, and if it's down, it's not sitting on it anyway. You find that position on the first key and the last key, and then you draw a line all the way down all your pedestals, and that way you know where you're going to put it on, and then you put super glue on each pedestal, and you drop a little bump on it 73 times. So I did that. And then to put the felts on, you have to cut an 1.5-inch piece of Steinway felt, and I pinned these 73 pieces to a bulletin board with push pins. So they're held down, and then you come back with contact cement and a brush, and you brush contact cement on these, and then within, you're supposed to let it dry 20 minutes, and then when you push it, also you put the contact cement on the key pedestal where you put your bump on. You glued your bump on with super glue, and then you come back and you put contact cement over the whole thing and on these, and then after 20 minutes you can push these down and they stick. So that's what I did last night. So wow, and just one fell swoop, boom, knocked it out, put it back together. A little technique involved, but anyway, so that's the Miracle Mod bump. So this Rhodes now has benefited from improved action, but then when I put it together to play it, the sound was really good and the action was way, markedly improved. So now that you have touch, that you can play quietly, and you couldn't before. You had to just play down hard all the time, and that's okay for pop music and rock where you're not going to play quiet, right? You're not going to put phraseology in your lines. You just are going to play down, and that's an okay style of playing. But this now you can play quietly, and that's great. So it is a great benefit, and I tweaked the voicing a little bit after tonight when I came back out, and found a handful of notes that were too loud or too soft in the scaling. That's scaling. When you even the volumes out of all the notes, right? Scaling, that you want them to be a similar volume. That sounds pretty good to me. And And so after putting the bump mod on and this improved action, there's no question that the action is 100% improved. But then what pointed out is that the key bushings on this Rhodes are shot to hell. So the key now is quick and musical, but the keys shimmy from side to side with every key moves side to side. And that is bad. So basically, the action, although now is quick, and after I sat and played for about 10 minutes, I got used to it, but you can't have that. The key can't be sliding back and forth, right? And so on the mark, the 73, there's no lateral movement in the key at all. So that is a better action, or else the key bushings are still in good shape. So the bushing is just a slot cut in the key that goes down over a pin on the rail, right? It's your balance rail. There's a pin, and the key pivots on it. You have felt in that slot, right, that holds it and makes it tight, and as the felt wears out, the key gets to where it can slide back and forth. So it just means that all of the felts in these key bushings are shot, and I'm going to have to replace them to get rid of that. So that'll be the next step on the transformation of this Rhodes 77, which is the dog of the whole lineage of Rhodes. But the cool thing is that it sounds okay, so I want to play some so that I can hear. Now, it's funny that this particular Rhodes has been through several stages of refurb. I'm sorry, I don't look too appealing. Fat guy in a Vans t-shirt. But anyway, so I would voice, and then I would put a video up, and then I would voice it. I spent a lot of time in the yard raking leaves today and blowing debris. So my back was killing me. Anyway, so sorry about my appearance. Anyway, so each time I would voice it, I would post another video and go, oh, this is the best sounding Rhodes. But in the process of trying to find the voicing, right, trying to remember what your goal is in voicing the instrument, right? So there are different concepts of how you're going to voice the keyboard to make it musical for you to play, right? And most Rhodes are muddy, especially down in the low end. You can't even play the low end because their tone is exactly the same as a Fender bass. So the whole years that I gigged in the early 80s on my Mark II, I had a Rhodey preamp. I would roll the bass off, but you would never play any of the bass notes because they just interfered with the bass player. So you only played chords in the mid-register and up high, and that's ridiculous that you can't use that register. So number one priority when you voice the Rhodes is to round down. the volume and the muddiness, which is the fundamental in the tone, right? That's all by turning the screw. You can have boom, or if you turn it on, it'll go boom, bing, and you'll get the top octave, right? So there's a lot of leeway. So you want to roll the low end off, attenuate the bass with timbre and probably with volume, moving the pickups so that you can use it, right? And this is a musical process that you have to listen and be a musician and a piano player. And I've learned that when I played piano on the ships, and I'm playing RD 700s all the time, which is kind of an old clunker thing, but you want every note, when I put headphones on, to be the same volume from the bottom all the way to the top. So every note is going to speak and be even, and that is a musical sound. And certainly that doesn't satisfy some musical director's desire for the sound of a grand piano. And a grand piano has this huge, tremendous low end if it's a good one. But an acoustic instrument, the low end on the acoustic piano is very transparent. So you can get down there and bang those low notes and they don't get in the way, right? Like the Rhodes does. So they wanted, a lot of MDs didn't like my piano sound because it was so perfectly notched into the vertical spectrum of the band. Here are the instruments and the piano fits in here. And so when you listen, it sounds like you're in a recording studio. It's mixed. It's not live. You're playing shows through the PA. You're not going to play with a live sound. Jazz would be slightly different in a small group environment. And so here I am, maybe thinking about playing one of these instruments, live again on some jazz gigs or whatever, if I ever end up playing again. But anyway, so here is the voicing of this, the way that it has transpired. Having that we just went through Hurricane Flo, I have some birds that live outside, so when I play, I hear them tweet, maybe baby birds. Baby birds. And by the way, I'd like to have my bass up here so I can play bass, but because the piano has no case, hence I have no bass. The piano has no case, hence I have no bass. Bronk. So I'm thinking about using the lid of the piano and flipping it upside down and using it for the case for this, because it's exactly the same diameter as the bottom. So I need to go retrieve one of the lids from my piano so I can make the bottom case. And I was thinking about making a custom top to put my little M-Audio 49 key station up here so I can reach up here and play bass. But anyway, so there was some humorous aside that I was going to add, but I can't remember. Here's a shout out to Kristen and her crew. What's up?